I never expected it to feel this personal. The massage table creaked quietly under me, the room dim except for a warm lamp in the corner. The faint scent of lavender oil hung in the air, thicker with every breath. Her hands were slow, deliberate. She wasn't just working on my shoulders. She was studying them, like every knot carried a story she wanted to read. "Here?" she asked softly, pressing a little harder. I swallowed. "Yeah, that's good." I could hear the smile in her voice without even looking. "Good doesn't tell me much. Tell me where you want it deeper." The word lingered longer than it should have, brushing against something in me I hadn't meant to show. She was older than me. Mid-40s, maybe. Confident in that way only someone who had lived enough could be. Her hair was tied loosely, a strand slipping across her cheek when she leaned over me. I kept catching glimpses whenever I lifted my head, though I pretended not to. I'd only met her 2 weeks ago, booked the appointment on a whim. But something about her presence made silence heavy, like every second stretched out. She wasn't like the women I knew. Girls my age felt quick, impatient, easily distracted. She lingered. She noticed. Her fingers paused at the base of my neck. I felt her hesitate, just a fraction of a second too long before moving again. My chest tightened. Was it in my head? "Your muscles hold tension," she murmured, almost to herself. "It's not just physical. It's like you don't let yourself rest." I let out a shaky laugh. Maybe I don't know how. Her hand slowed, softer now, not pushing, just resting there like she was listening. Then, quietly, "Everyone needs somewhere safe to let go." I didn't answer. My throat was tight. She wasn't just talking about massage, and we both knew it. The clock ticked faintly on the wall, but everything else was still, the kind of stillness where you hear your own pulse. I felt every brush of her skin against mine, every slight shift in the air when she leaned closer. I shouldn't have been thinking about her this way. She was older, professional. This wasn't supposed to mean anything. But lying there, her breath almost grazing my ear as she adjusted, I couldn't pretend I didn't notice the way her voice softened just for me. When she finally stepped back, the sudden absence of her touch made my skin ache. She reached for more oil, her back turned, giving me a moment to catch the expression on my face. I wasn't fast enough to hide it when she looked back. Our eyes met, just for a second, but too long to be nothing. Her lips parted like she was about to say something, then closed again. Instead, she adjusted the towel over my shoulders, professional, practiced. But her fingers trembled when they brushed my collarbone. I wanted to say something, anything, to break the silence pressing between us. But the word stuck. The air was charged, fragile, and if I spoke, it might shatter. So I just lay there, heart pounding louder than the clock, waiting. That's when the doorbell rang. The sound was sharp, out of place, cutting through the quiet like a knife. She froze, her hand still against my shoulder, her breath caught. Neither of us moved. And in that pause, I knew something had just shifted, something neither of us could take back. The doorbell kept ringing, sharper the second time. She pulled her hand from my shoulder as if it had burned her and stepped away, smoothing her hair too quickly. "Stay here," she said, voice tight. I propped myself on my elbows, watching her hurry to the door. She spoke softly with whoever was outside. I couldn't make out the words, only the rhythm of her voice, careful and measured. Then the door closed, and she leaned against it for a second longer than she should have before turning back. "Sorry," she said, forcing a small smile. "My neighbor." But her eyes betrayed her. She wasn't just flustered, she was rattled. I lay back, staring at the ceiling, trying to ignore the sudden heaviness in the room. Something about her reaction told me there was more going on. She resumed the massage, though her touch had changed, less steady, more cautious. I wanted to ask her what was wrong, why she looked like she was carrying something heavier than me on that table. But I stayed quiet. Instead, I studied her in the silence. The lines around her eyes weren't just from age, they were from years of holding things in. Her hands, skilled and confident, trembled when they paused too long. "Do you always work this late?" I asked finally, my voice breaking the stillness. "Sometimes." She hesitated. "The quiet helps. The quiet feels lonely." Her hands froze, pressing lightly into my back. I thought I'd gone too far, But then she sighed, a sound that carried more truth than her words. "You're not wrong," she whispered. I turned my head, catching her expression in the soft glow of the lamp. She wasn't looking at me. She was somewhere else, staring at a memory I couldn't see. I wanted to know. I wanted to understand the weight she carried. But I didn't want to scare her away. "My ex-husband used to say I worked too much," she said suddenly, almost as if confessing to herself. "Said I never knew how to stop. Maybe he just didn't know how to stay," I said before I could stop myself. Her hands faltered again, then steadied. She didn't answer, but the silence felt like agreement. I wondered if she noticed me noticing her. If she realized how my chest tightened every time her hands lingered too close. I shouldn't have been thinking this way. She was twice my age. Old enough to know better. Old enough to have a daughter who went to my college. That thought hit hard. And yet, even knowing what I shouldn't want, I couldn't pull myself out of it. Her voice softened, breaking my thoughts. "You remind me of him. Not my ex, someone I knew when I was younger." He looked at me like. She stopped herself, shaking her head. "Never mind." I wanted to ask. God, I wanted to know who that was. But instead, I pushed my hand out from under the towel, letting it rest on the edge of the table. Just close enough that when she adjusted the sheet, her fingers brushed mine. Neither of us pulled away. The contact was small, almost nothing. But in that moment, it felt like a door cracking open. Dangerous, irreversible, and impossible not to look through. Her eyes flicked to mine, wide, questioning. For once, she didn't hide. And in the quiet, everything we weren't saying pressed heavier than words ever could. Her fingers brushed mine again. She didn't move. Neither did I. The air between us was fragile, like glass about to shatter. Then, knocking. Not the doorbell this time. Harder. More insistent. She jerked her hand back as if burned, the towel slipping slightly from my shoulder. "Stay here," she whispered sharply, already moving toward the door. I sat up, pulse racing. Who the hell would be at her place this late? I caught her voice, hushed and tense. "I told you not to just show up." A man's voice cut through, low and sharp. "We need to talk." My stomach dropped. Ex-husband? Boyfriend? Whoever he was, the way she gripped the doorframe told me she didn't want him here. I slid off the table, pulling the towel tighter around me. My clothes were folded neatly on the chair, but I couldn't bring myself to move. The door clicked shut again. She leaned against it, eyes closed, chest rising fast. For a second, she didn't realize I was watching. "You okay?" I asked. Her eyes snapped open. "You shouldn't have heard that." Too late. She gave a bitter laugh, but it wasn't amusement. "You're too young for this mess." I stepped closer before I could think better of it. "Then why let me stay?" Her breath caught. She opened her mouth, then closed it, like the words were too dangerous to say. We stood there, the silence hot and charged. My towel slipped slightly, and she noticed. Her gaze lingered a second too long before she forced it back up to my eyes. "Don't," she whispered. "I'm not. You are." Her voice broke. And I can't. But her body betrayed her. She didn't step back. She didn't move away when I closed the distance, when I stood close enough to smell the lavender oil still on her skin. Her hand lifted, just barely, as if to touch my face, then stopped midair, trembling. "We shouldn't," she said. "I know." My voice was lower than I meant. "But I can't stop thinking about you." Her lips parted, the faintest breath between us. One more inch, and it would have been a kiss. One more second, and I would have crossed the line. But she stepped back. Quick, sharp, like she'd woken from a dream. "Get dressed," she said, voice unsteady. "You need to go." I froze. The rejection stung, but her eyes betrayed her, wide, glassy, full of something that wasn't just resistance. I pulled on my shirt in silence, every movement heavier than it should be. She busied herself with the oils, wiping the table, avoiding me. When I finally stood by the door, shoes in hand, she wouldn't look at me. I almost left. I should have left. But my hand brushed hers when she reached for the doorknob, and she didn't pull away. That tiny contact again. Electric. Impossible. She whispered, barely audible. "You make me forget myself." And then she opened the door, shoving me gently into the night before either of us could do something we couldn't take back. The door shut, but the echo of her words stayed. louder than the knock that started it all. I couldn't stop thinking about her. The way her voice cracked when she said I made her forget herself. The way she almost touched me, then pulled back like I was fire. 2 days later, I was standing outside her studio again. I told myself it was just for another session, but my chest knew better. When she opened the door, she looked different. Guarded. Tired. Like she'd spent 2 nights fighting herself. "You shouldn't be here," she said immediately. "I booked an appointment." "That doesn't mean you should be here." Her tone was sharp, but her hand lingered on the doorknob like she was debating slamming it shut or pulling me inside. I stepped in anyway. The room smelled like the same lavender oil, but this time it was suffocating, too sweet. She kept her distance, arms folded. "You don't understand. If anyone." She stopped herself, lips pressed tight. "Anyone like your ex?" I shot back before I could stop. Her eyes snapped to mine wide. "You heard. Hard not to. He still thinks he has a claim on you. That's none of your concern. It is if he walks in while I'm here." She flinched, and in that flinch I saw it. The fear, the shame, the mess she was trying to keep buried. I softened. "You don't have to carry all this alone." Something in her broke then. Her voice rose, trembling with everything she hadn't said. "You think this is simple? You're half my age. You're my daughter's friend. My ex already watches my every move. If he found out..." She stopped, breath shaking. "This could ruin me." Her words cut deep, but not enough to push me away. "I don't care," I said. Too fast. Too honest. "I don't care about the rules, or the age, or him. You just what?" Her eyes were wet now, sharp and desperate. "Say it. I want you." The words hung there, too loud, too raw. No taking them back. Her chest rose and fell hard, like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. Her hands dropped from her chest to her sides, and for the first time, she didn't move away. Silence filled the room, the kind of silence that vibrates with everything unsaid. She stepped forward once, then again, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating off her. Her eyes searched mine, torn between every reason to stop and every reason not to. My heart pounded, waiting, begging. Her hand lifted, slow, trembling, toward my face. And then, a knock at the door. Louder this time. We both froze, inches apart, everything about to break. The knock at the door didn't stop. 3 sharp raps. Urgent, like whoever was outside knew they were interrupting something. She pulled back from me, breathing hard, her hand frozen in the air before it fell uselessly to her side. Her eyes darted to the door, then back to me. "Don't move," she whispered. I stood rigid, listening as she cracked it open. A voice drifted in, one I recognized instantly. "Mom? You didn't answer my texts." My stomach turned to stone. Her daughter. The air left the room in a rush. She glanced over her shoulder at me, eyes wide, pleading. Panic wasn't just on her face. It lived in every line of her body. I grabbed my jacket, shoving it on with fumbling hands. My pulse hammered so loudly I barely heard the rest. Her daughter stepped inside. "Why does it smell like?" She stopped mid-sentence, eyes landing on me. Time collapsed into silence. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. She moved fast, stepping between us, her voice too bright, too forced. "He's just a client. One of the regulars I told you about." The lie snapped sharp in the air. Too quick, too rehearsed. Her daughter's gaze flicked between us, me with my half-zipped jacket, her with flushed cheeks and trembling hands. "Right," her daughter said flatly. "A client." I felt it like a blade. Accusation, suspicion, betrayal. Not from the daughter, but from her. She had chosen the story before I even opened my mouth. "I should go," I muttered. My voice cracked, raw. She didn't stop me, didn't explain, didn't fight. That silence cut deeper than anything else. I brushed past them both, the lavender smell now cloying, sickly sweet. The hallway outside felt cold, almost merciful. But just as I reached the door, her voice followed me, low, urgent, breaking. "Wait." I turned. She wasn't looking at her daughter anymore. She was looking at me. Her eyes shone with something fierce, desperate, something that could burn everything down if she let it out. For a second, the lie didn't matter. For a second, it was just us again. Her lips parted, a confession trembling there, ready to change everything. And then her daughter's phone buzzed. She flinched, swallowed whatever she was about to say, and turned away, leaving me stranded in the doorway, wondering what truth she almost set free. I should have walked out. I should have let the door close behind me and never looked back. But her weight still rang in my chest, and when I turned, the look in her eyes stopped me cold. Her daughter stepped closer, suspicious, protective. "Mom, what's going on?" She didn't answer right away. She looked at me instead, as if searching for strength in the one person she wasn't supposed to need. Her silence stretched too long. The truth sat between us like a live wire, buzzing, dangerous. Finally, I spoke, voice rough. "Tell her, or I will." Her face twisted, fear, longing, shame, all tangled together. For a moment, I thought she'd deny me again. But then her shoulders dropped, the fight drained out of her, and she exhaled like someone standing at the edge of a cliff. "I crossed a line," she said quietly, looking at her daughter but meaning the words for me. "I told myself it was nothing, that I was only helping him. But it's not nothing. Not anymore." Her daughter's mouth opened, but no words came. I stepped forward, my voice low but steady. "I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did, and I won't pretend it didn't." The room went still, 3 lives hanging in the silence. Her daughter shook her head, hurt flickering across her face. He's my age." Her mother's eyes filled, but she didn't back down. "I know. And I know," she repeated, firmer this time. That broke something in me. She wasn't hiding anymore. She was owning it, even if it ruined her. I crossed the space between us, ignoring the daughter's stare. My hand brushed hers. Not a grab, not a demand, just the simplest contact, trembling but sure. She didn't pull away. Her daughter's voice cracked. "So what now? You two just, play house? Pretend this isn't insane." I looked at her, then back at the woman standing beside me. Her hand tightened in mine, just enough to say she was done running. "I don't know what happens next," she said softly, "but I'm tired of being afraid." The words hit like thunder, honest and raw. We stood there, 3 people in one room, none of us knowing what tomorrow would look like. But for the first time, I felt the weight shift. It wasn't a secret anymore. It wasn't safe. It wasn't easy, but it was real. And as her fingers laced with mine, I knew whatever came after this moment would change everything. The room was too quiet. My hand was still tangled in hers, her daughter staring at us like she'd walked into a dream that should never have existed. Nobody spoke. Not at first. Finally, her daughter broke the silence. "You can't just pretend this is normal." Her mother's grip tightened on my hand, but her voice was steady. "I'm not pretending. I'm telling you the truth. I didn't plan for this, but it happened. And for once, I don't want to hide what I feel." Her daughter's eyes glossed with anger and something softer underneath. Betrayal, maybe fear. "He's supposed to be my friend." I swallowed hard, guilt slicing through me. "I never wanted to hurt you. I know this feels wrong, but what's between us, it's real." The daughter shook her head, backing away. "I can't do this right now." She grabbed her bag, her footsteps quick as she stormed out, the door slamming behind her. The sound left an ache in the air. I turned to her mother, expecting her to collapse, to regret everything. But she didn't. She stood there, breathing slow, her shoulders finally unburdened. "She'll hate me for a while," she whispered. "But at least she'll know I didn't lie to her anymore." I searched her face, half expecting her to push me away next. Instead, she reached up, brushing her hand against my cheek like she'd been waiting her whole life for the courage to do it. "You were never supposed to matter this much," she said softly. "But you do." I leaned into her touch, all the fear and guilt melting into something undeniable. "So where does that leave us?" She let out a shaky laugh, one that carried both relief and sorrow. "Somewhere messy, somewhere hard, but together if we're brave enough." I smiled, small but certain. "Then I'll be brave if you will." For the first time, she didn't look away. She didn't pull back. She let herself stay, hand on my face, eyes locked on mine, as if she was finally choosing to live without fear. And in that moment, with all the uncertainty still ahead of us, it felt like enough.